Trade deadline's little over a month away. What's the most realistic path forward for the Braves? Let's talk about it. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today, a production of the Belief Podcast Network and presented to you by FanDuel. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com. I want to talk about tonight's rematch with the San Francisco Giants. You've got 3 starting tonight in Oracle Park in San Francisco. I want to talk about the owner's proposal yesterday about free agency and the restrictions they want to put on it and why it's the right idea, but the wrong execution. Before we do that, though, trade deadline is little more than a month away, right? We're looking at August 3rd. That afternoon is the deadline. And I've been going back and forth about what is the bigger need, a big bat or a power arm, right? Reinforcing the offense, reinforcing the rotation. And I don't necessarily think that these are mutually exclusive, right? It's not like you do one or the other. You absolutely can do both. You can do both of these things. But in an effort to be realistic, as in I don't want to sit here and say, go get Skubal, go get Jordan, go get Byron Bucks. That's not realistic. Trying to be realistic here. What is the best path forward? So let's look at the need for an arm. Let's look at the need for a bat. And let's figure out some potential frameworks of what you might do. And when it comes to the offense, I think we've seen in the last month or so, the Atlanta Braves offense has not been the same that it was early in the season. And early in the year, they had a couple things going for them that they don't have now. One was health, right? You had Ronald Acuna Jr., you had Drake Baldwin, you had most of the pieces you were expecting to have. So that was thing number one. Thing number two, with the exception of Ronald not hitting to what he usually does, and Austin Riley struggles, everybody just about was producing, right? And by that, not only were they hitting their career numbers, but a lot of guys were outperforming and putting up outlier production in the first month of the year, right? If you go and you look at this team and you're like, okay, the month of May, the month of April, Atlanta as a roster hit 271. 336 on base, 449 slug. They hit 43 home runs, but like they had 64 other extra base hits, and they scored 177 runs. And that's 32 games, right? That's little over a month worth because the season starts the end of March. But when you dive into that and you pull up what guys were doing, again, a lot of the stars were starring. Matt Olson was hitting 296 with a 616 slug. Ozzie Albies, 323 with a 540 slug. Michael Harris, 317 with a 535 slug. Drake Baldwin, 308 with a 500 slug. Like a lot of these guys were just killing it. You had 5 different guys with an OPS over 880. So thing number one is a lot of your regulars were not only performing up to expectations, they were outproducing expectations, right? They were just, nobody in their right mind would ever think Matt Olson would hit almost 300 with a slug of over 600 for a season. But in the first month of the year, he did it. The second thing is they were getting outsized production from role players. Dom Smith played in 24 games in that stretch, like 71 plate appearances. Less than half of what Matt Olson had. Matt Olson had 143, but the point is, he had a significant role here. He hit .338 with a .925 OPS. It's the second highest OPS of any Braves player in that first month and change of the season, right? Outsized production from role players. Dubon hitting .275 with a .747 OPS. We've talked over and over about how clutch he was, right? How much he was able to come through in high leverage situations. Jorge Mateo, .267 with a .713 OPS. Better than you would expect him to do based on career numbers. And so despite the fact that Mike Yastrzemski was awful, despite the fact that Austin Riley was awful, Eli White wasn't doing much, you still were able to get fantastic offensive results. But since then, a lot of those guys have cooled off. In the month of May, I'm not going to go through tons of detail here, but in the month of May, you had Ronald had a 2-week stretch where he was nuclear. Drake Baldwin continued to be awesome. Jorge Mateo stepped up and hit at .347 in a small sample. Michael Harris continued to be good, right? But you had some of the regulars kind of step back into what their career numbers said they would do. Matt Olson, .762 OPS, right? Slug in the 4s, batting average in the low 2s. Austin Riley, batting average in the low 2s. OPS in the 7s. All right, Ozzie Albies had a bit of a cold stretch in there, right? It cooled off a little bit. You were still getting home runs. You weren't getting as many runs. And it cooled off just a little bit. In the month of June, you've seen things crater. As a roster, they're hitting .223 with a .631 OPS. And Mauricio Dubon got hot, right? Ozzie Albies has been hot. Matt Olson has been hot. Michael Harris has been hot. They're all in that same boat they were in the first month, right? Batting average over 300, OPS over 800. Michael Harris is 789, but point is they're all close. But a lot of your additional role players have fallen off, right? Mike Yastrzemski hitting .156 with an OPS under 500. Dom Smith, .163 OPS over 500. Jorge Mateo, .107 average, .281 OPS. It's only 29 plate appearances, but still, the point is, Drake Baldwin's been cold since he came back, right? So you have this core group of 4 guys, and Albies, and Olson, and Harris, and Dubon, that for the most part keep producing, have been producing all season. We feel pretty confident you're going to get Drake Baldwin going again. I don't think anybody expects Drake Baldwin to keep doing what he's doing, to keep struggling like he's struggling. We all expect him to get back to it. But the outfield has been a problem. Ronald Acuna Jr. has missed a lot of time. He hasn't hit like he usually does when he's been there. And I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm just acknowledging that is true, right? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with him. Just, he's not yet having the season that he wants. Michael Harris has hit really well, but he's been hurt, right? He hasn't been consistently in the lineup. He's been there more often than not, right? Mike Yastrzemski got hot a little bit, but otherwise, he struggled this year. Eli White has had flashes, but he struggled this year. You can see, hey, if we add a bat, outfield would make a lot of sense. You get a guy who can play corner outfield. That would make a lot of sense for you as reinforcing the offense. Austin Riley at third base has struggled as well. Heidi Watney talked about this 2 weeks ago. He's physically back, but it doesn't mean that he is 100% health and everything. He's clearly still has some sort of lingering effects of this abdominal issue. There's mental approach stuff in there as well, but he clearly has some lingering effects from that. Just like Drake Baldwin clearly has some lingering effects from the oblique. He's physically able to come back. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's perfectly ready. And so because of that, you could see a guy out of that third base. And I think what's really helpful here for the Braves is they have Mauricio Dubon. They have an open DH spot. They can move guys around. And what's good for the Braves is they don't have to target a specific position, right? I think the best configuration of the roster right now is Dubon playing shortstop. So if you get an outfielder, great. But if you end up finding somebody who can't play the outfield, then they need to be at DH. Guess what? You can throw Dubon in the outfield. You've got versatility here. You have options. And I think that's what's really helpful. Adding a bat. And my first thought is the easiest thing to get is going to be an outfielder. Maybe it's a guy like a Taylor Ward. He was a common target for Braves fans coming from the Angels last year. He's making $12.175 million. It's a really odd year for Taylor Ward. He hit 36 home runs last year. Career high, but still. He has 5 this year. But he has significantly cut his strikeout rate, and he's increased his walk rate. His on base of 389 is one, career high for him, but two, a top 10 mark among all qualified hitters in Major League Baseball. So he has the ability to hit home runs. He's not necessarily doing it, but he's getting on base a lot. He's a qualifying offer candidate, so if the Orioles decide to move him, they may ask for a little bit more than normal because they would be losing a draft pick if they trade him in season. You can look at, I don't think CJ Abrams is going to happen. One, I don't think he's a shortstop. But two, I just don't necessarily see them moving him in the division, right? But if you look like Lars Nootbaar, came back from heel surgery on both heels, actually. Fantastic start. He's hitting 288. His OPS is in the 8s. I think it's only like 17 games or so, but if he keeps this up, he's absolutely going to be a candidate. He has one more year of arbitration eligibility next year. He's making $5.5 million this year, so he'd be a target. Jarren Duran of the Red Sox. I still wonder if they're going to finally move an outfielder or not. He's the one, he's having a terrible season. He's hitting under 200. His strikeout's a career high, like 30%. He has 2 additional years of control after this. So they may not move him. But if they do, absolutely you could see how. And then some other targets that you could see possibly move. If you're talking about outfield, Rockies have a couple outfielders with additional control. Mickey Moniak, Jake McCarthy. Moniak has 1 year of control. I think McCarthy has 2. I think McCarthy's he's a better defender. He's more variable. He has great seasons or league average seasons and then terrible seasons. But this one, he's hitting almost 300. He's not an impact player, but I think a lot of teams are going to want him more. He can play center field. Maybe a Trevor Larnach. I don't think the Angels are going to move Joe Adell, but there's a lot of outfield options, right? A lot of corner outfield options you could see moved. That's probably the most realistic path for the Braves to add somebody, is grab an outfielder from a contender, simply because most of these teams are going to cash in on these guys while they can, and none of these should be that expensive. Maybe they try a buy low on a guy like a Stephen Kwan or something. The flip side of this, adding a starter, you can see the obvious need. Your rotation is made up of 2 groups of pitchers. There is the Chris Sale type, high strikeout rate, can be an impactful starter, a guy you would throw in the postseason. Chris Sale is the poster child on Atlanta for that right now. All of the rest of those options got hurt, right? Spencer Strider, hurt. Hurston Waldrop, hurt. Spencer Schwellenbach, hurt. AJ Smith-Shawver, hurt. They're all in various stages of coming back, and it's very likely you're going to see at least one of them, if not more of them, this season. But with a month, you don't know who you're going to have. AJ Smith-Shawver, he did a sim game yesterday, 2 innings. He's still not started a rehab assignment. You likely won't see him before the deadline. Spencer Schwellenbach, you definitely will not see him for the deadline. Spencer Strider, you will not see him for the deadline. Hurston Waldrop, you may see him in a week or 2. We'll talk about that a little later. And so, getting a guy with swing and miss stuff at the front to partner with Chris Sale and ideally be somebody who you're comfortable throwing at least in game 3, if not game 2, would be incredibly helpful. The other part of your rotation is what you have now. Guys that they don't have the best swing and miss stuff and the whiff stuff and everything, but when they're on, they can get weak contact, they can get ground balls, they can get you through 5 innings, maybe 6, and then hand it over to the bullpen, right? Martin Perez is the poster child for that right now. Bryce Elder, when he's been on this year, has been in the area between the two. He can strike out 7 over 6 or 7 innings. He can get a bunch of ground balls. He's been on the line between Group 1 and Group 2. Between the frontline guys, and I'm not calling him a frontline guy. He's been on that line between a frontline guy and one of the back-end regular season guys. J.R. Ritchie profiles to be one of those guys in the future, right? Grant Holmes, when he's on, can straddle that line along with Elder. He's been off more than he's been on this season. And so if you're looking to add a starter, obviously the goal is to get somebody who can be in that first group. The issue is that's what everybody wants. And I think you're not going to find a guy to be a number 1, right? A number 1 caliber guy. Not that Atlanta would supplant Chris Sale. Chris Sale will start game 1 if he's healthy, but something like that. And so I keep thinking like, we're not going to get a Tarek Skubal. We're probably not going to be the team that ends up getting a Joe Ryan. I keep thinking about if Sonny Gray has been connected to the Braves for a long time. He's from Nashville. We arguably would have signed him before he went to St. Louis if he didn't have that qualifying offer, right? And so I keep thinking about that would make a lot of sense, provided you can figure out some way to mitigate the $10 million buyout he's owed for 2027. It's a mutual option. Those are almost never picked up. And if you don't pick it up, you owe him $10 million on the next year. So the cost you're paying him ends up being a lot. And yes, you're freeing up money next year, but that's a sunk cost. I wouldn't be shocked if the Braves make a deal with the Red Sox to get Sonny Gray and then end up signing him to some sort of extension that guarantees his salary for 2027 to get rid of that buyout and adds a 2028 club option to it. I wouldn't be shocked if that's the outcome here. And honestly, I don't want to take on Sonny Gray just for this. It's a lot of money. And the thing that frustrates me is because of the way the mutual option works and everything, I believe with the league that $10 million would go on next year's payroll. To me, paying $10 million for a player that is not here next season is dumb. Maybe the Braves still do it. Maybe the Braves still make that deal and just accept they're going to have to pay the $10 million. But I think it'd be a much better way to handle this is to get him with an extension, right? Maybe you agree to terms with Boston and then you hammer out the extension real quick. But get him with an extension. That's a $30 million mutual option. You probably end up having to pay him $30 million next year, plus some sort of sweetener to get him to renegotiate this whole thing. Because you have to remember, he could always decline his half of the mutual option, take the $10 million, and then sign somewhere for 25 or $30 million, right? So you probably have to give him some sort of sweetener. Maybe you end up having to guarantee his age 37 season and his age 38 season. Who knows? You probably have to do something like that. But I think something like Sonny Gray combined with a rental of a guy like a Casey Mize. Just Sonny Gray. Casey Mize is another Southern guy. He's from Alabama. He went to Auburn. I've talked to him in Auburn before at baseball things. He's been at baseball. We were both at fall ball one time. I was like a row up from him in the stands watching. And we just started chatting ball and talked ball for 20 minutes. Like, he's a Southern guy, right? He grew up watching the Braves. So he has an ERA under 3. His strikeout rate's a career high. he, to me, when he's on, can be in that first group, right? He's not a number one, but he can be in that first group. I think right now he's probably solidly in that middle ground between the two groups at the worst. And you're comfortable with him starting game 3 of a postseason series. And all you'd have to do is find one more guy. Maybe it's Waldrop. Maybe it's Strider. Maybe it's Smith-Shawver. I don't think it's a terrible place to be. So there's options there. Let me know what you think as a realistic path for the Braves, right? What could you picture them doing as far as adding a bat, adding an arm or two? I do think it's more likely they get 2 arms that are number 3s, number 2, number 3, than try to get one front of the rotation guy. So let me know what you think. In just a minute, golly, we're already 20 minutes into the pod. In just a minute, let's talk about the new proposal from the owners on the changes to free agency. Because I think they had the right idea, but they're doing this the wrong way. We'll talk about that next, right here on Braves Today. But first, this episode's brought to you by our friends at IQ Bar, our exclusive snack, hydration, and coffee sponsor. IQ Bar protein bars, IQ Mix hydration mixes, and IQ Joe mushroom-infused coffees are the tasty, low-sugar brain and body fuel that you need to win your day. The Ultimate Sampler Pack's a great way to try all of the IQ Bar products and flavors. You get 9 IQ bars, 8 IQ Mix sticks, and 4 IQ Joe sticks. And all IQ Bar products are clean label certified and entirely free from gluten, dairy, soy, GMOs, and artificial ingredients. With over 20,000 5-star reviews and counting, more people than ever are fueling their busy lifestyles with IQ Bar's brain and body boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom-infused coffees. And the Ultimate Sampler Pack includes all 3. Right now, IQ Bar is offering Braves Today listeners 20% off of all IQ Bar products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack, plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text MLB to 64000. That's MLB to 64000. That's MLB to 64000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. Another proposal was presented by the MLB owners to the Players Association ahead of December 1st expiration of the CBA. And it's important to remember the context of all of the offers that MLB is making on all of the other details. And it's that everything, all of the downstream stuff that they're proposing, the draft changes from a week or two ago, this free agency revamp, everything is predicated on their initial position of Major League Baseball instituting a salary cap and the corresponding floor. But they filled in some of the blanks on all of the other aspects of their salary cap proposal. And one of the things that they have in here, I want to talk about what they're calling the cornerstone player provision. So I think we can all agree that it is a good thing in sports when organizations, when teams are able to keep their players that they developed and that debuted with their teams. I think we can all agree watching a guy spend his whole career with one team is awesome. Chipper Jones, entire career with the Braves. And I think a lot of Braves fans would, no matter how you feel about the situation now and who's at fault, and I've been very strongly on the record that Freeman's the one that decided this. I think a lot of Braves fans can agree that it would have made a lot of sense for Freddie Freeman to spend his entire career with the Atlanta Braves. I'm not here to relitigate that whole thing, right? I'm not here to have that whole conversation. We're not having that discussion about what happened. But I think we can agree it would have been really cool. It would have been nice for that to happen. He was drafted by Atlanta in 2007, he signed an extension in 2014 and then left after 2021. MLB is addressing that type of situation in their newest free agency proposal that came out yesterday. What they are proposing with the cornerstone player rule, the cornerstone player provision, is giving teams an advantage when trying to retain their own players. It's similar, but fundamentally different from the NBA's bird rights. Okay? And that's where the idea came from. And the NBA calls that the qualifying veteran free agent exception. It's a whole boring thing. I'm curious who will name the cornerstone player provision after if it goes into effect. What MLB is proposing is that all free agent contracts are limited to 5 years and 15% of the salary cap, which would effectively, with the numbers that they proposed for 2027, would cap these deals at 5 years and $202 million. There are escalators built in, like a maximum escalator you can get every single season in those deals. So that's why it's just not a straight dollar amount. That's why the dollar amount changes. Their cornerstone player provision says that if it's one of your own players, you can offer a 6th year and a slightly higher percentage, I think it's 16%, meaning they can end up signing for 6 years and $265 million. So you get an advantage in trying to re-sign players that have played for your team by offering them a larger contract. You are able to offer them more money for a longer term than they could get from anywhere else. I just checked at a 16%. And it's important to point out this maximum contract length is only for free agent years, supposedly. But players under team control can sign longer term deals, but it's the combination of that 6-year framework plus their remaining years of control, right? What the league in essence has done is say, if you extend a guy with 0 years of service time, meaning you have 6 years of control of him, then the most you can give him is a 12-year deal, because you can give him the 6 years of control you already have and the 6 years under the free agency system. If he has 1 year of service time, you can sign him for 11 years. If he has 2 years of service time, you can sign him for 10, so on and so forth, right? So they are capping the maximum deal that anybody can get. No matter what the situation is, they are capping that. And here's the thing. I like the idea of making it easier for a team to re-sign players that they drafted, that they developed, and that they debuted in the majors. I think that is a good thing. I also think that this is not the way to do it. I think that establishing a max contract is the wrong way to do this. I am a strong a strong proponent of incentives over restrictions. There is a way to structure the current system to incentivize teams to re-sign their own players by making it easier to do it. The analogy that I used in today's newsletter when I wrote about this was, imagine if you tried to encourage home ownership by outlawing apartments. Like, sure, yeah, you probably would wind up with more homeowners, but you're doing that by eliminating the alternatives. And what I would rather do is make it easier to buy homes. And this is not intended to, we're not getting into politics here. I'm not going any farther with that analogy, right? This is just, the idea is, rather than taking away alternatives, make it easier to do the thing. So rather than saying, nobody can sign this guy for more than 5 years, but you can sign this guy for 6, why don't we say, okay, we're going to help you re-sign this player. If you're a team that receives revenue sharing, maybe we give you additional revenue sharing money specifically for a cornerstone player's salary. And the longer they've been with your team, treat it like bird rights in NBA. The longer they've been with your team, the more money we give you as a percentage of their contract. Imagine if the Pirates want to re-sign Paul Skeens, and it's going to take $400 million. I don't know what he's actually going to sign for. I haven't fully thought all these numbers through. Just work with me on this. What if the Pirates want to re-sign Paul Skeens, and the deal he has on the table from big market team here, Yankees, Dodgers, Phillies, whoever you want to think about, is $400 million. What if the Pirates could do it and they only have to spend $300 million? What if additional revenue sharing money covered the final $100 million? Wouldn't that be a better way to ensure that Paul Skeens can stay in Pittsburgh and still make what he is worth in the open market versus saying, hey, New York, you can only sign him for $200 million for 5 years. That's all you can do. You can't do any more than that. Pirates, you can do 260. What if the Pirates were paying 260 of their own money and 140 of revenue sharing money versus the Yankees offering $400 million or the Dodgers offering $400 million, right? What if that's the way it worked? You incentivized, you made it easier for the team to keep their star versus restricting what he can make on the open market. Let him make what he is worth, but give his team an advantage in trying to keep him. And this, you can do this same idea on the top end as well. You can go to a team that is close to the cap. Like Jeremy Pena is a great example, okay? The common conversation around Jeremy Pena with the Houston Astros is he is not going to make it to the end of that contract with the Houston Astros because their owner, Jim Crane, is terrified of the luxury tax. He does not want to ever pay luxury tax. And so they will go up to that line and they will stop. And so the belief is they will not have the money to pay Jeremy Pena. And so they're probably going to trade him the season before he goes to free agency, which I think would be this. They trade him this winter. I think he's a free agent after 27. What if the Astros could sign Jeremy Pena, but if he would take them into the tax, they don't pay tax for him? What if we incentivize that team in that situation to spend more money when they normally wouldn't? What if we incentivize them to push their payroll by not making it as financially damaging if it takes them into the tax? There are ways to incentivize teams to keep their players. And that is what we're trying to do here, right? What if re-signing a qualified cornerstone player, what if you flip the qualifying offer around? What if you re-sign that player and you get an additional draft pick? Hey, Pirates, we're going to help you pay for Paul Skeens. And if you sign him, we're going to give you an additional draft pick for retaining a qualified cornerstone player. And obviously, you'd have to define what a cornerstone player is. But rather than restricting his ability to earn what he is worth, because I think what we all want for ourselves is to be paid what we're worth, right? What if we say, hey, Pirates, we will help you re-sign Paul Skeens, and we will reward you for doing so. When you combine that with the more onerous CBT penalties that I've proposed, like, for instance, don't move a draft pick back 10 spots, take it away for going over certain levels of the cap. I know people are probably saying, couldn't the Dodgers just pay him $60 million a year? Maybe if they lose a first-round pick, they wouldn't be willing to do that. Maybe if they lose their first draft pick completely and they don't pick until pick 50, maybe they wouldn't want to do that. Maybe they wouldn't be willing to offer $60 million and they'd only offer $40 million. Who knows? Carrots, not sticks. That's a better way forward. But and I'm not going to get too into this because I know not everybody agrees, this whole thing isn't really about competitive balance. That's what the owners keep saying in all of their proposals, is that they're doing all of these things to alleviate fan concerns about competitive balance. That's why they want a salary cap. That's why they want to restrict the dollar amount and the years of free agency and all of those things. That's not what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do is to build cost certainty into the sport. Thing number one, because their franchise values aren't growing as much as the franchise values of the NFL, who has a hard cap, and the NBA, who has a tougher soft cap than baseball does. That's what they're doing. The other thing they're doing, and I think this is important to point out, is they're trying to insulate themselves from future revenue issues in Major League Baseball. The Brewers admitted just the other day that they're taking a $20 million haircut on revenue this year, moving from the RSN that they had to their own streaming thing, Brewers.tv or whatever it's called. If you tie all player salaries into a percentage of revenue, it's tied whether it goes up or down. And so what the owners are trying to do is they're saying, one, we want some security from the players if the revenues drop as we try to navigate this new broadcast scheme that we're working on. While the thing we really care about, the franchise values, will get better. So they're locking in the players on, hey, if we lose money, y'all have to cover the losses. They're trying to subsidize their potential losses and privatize their potential gains in franchise value. They want to make the players partners in growing the game together in a time when they understand that the game is no longer printing the money at the exact same rate it was before. But again, the franchise values have grown more than player salaries, have grown more than player revenues. And if you want some numbers, revenues, according to Forbes, since 2011, revenues have gone up 116% in Major League Baseball. Payrolls have gone up 75%. Franchise valuations have gone up 464%. And they just had one of the best year-over-year increases that they've ever had. And I'm not saying that the franchise value stuff has to be shared with the players. I don't really know how you would do that. But they want to institute a revenue sharing system with the players because they don't know what revenues are going to do. And they're at least publicly messaging that they're willing to tank short-term revenues to get this system in place. If you lose baseball in 2027, if there are games that are not played in 27, that is going to hurt the revenues for the sport. And baseball just saw the first attendance increase since the early 2000s, and they just saw record viewing increases across every possible thing, across the RSNs when they were there last year, national TV deals, streaming on MLB.tv, overseas, Japan, all that kind of stuff. The game is growing right now. Let's hope that the owners don't hold out so long that they hurt it from doing that going forward. In just a minute, 40 minutes into the show, let's get to the Giants. Let's talk about the pitchers you're going to face, what's different about the Giants now versus when you faced them last week, and what to expect going forward. We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. Final segment of Braves Today. A very long episode now that I'm not sick, to make up for a short episode that I did while still feeling sick yesterday. Yeah. All right, Braves have a 3-game series against the Giants. Starts tonight at Oracle Park, 10:15 tonight, 9:05 on Saturday, 4:05 on Sunday. I am so glad we will be done with these late games after this. The Giants have not officially announced their starters, which is frustrating as a person who tries to do an article and a live stream every single day about the opposing pitcher and what they throw and their sequencing and all of that. It's really annoying that I can't get that pre-written during the day. I have to wait until the lineup's announced to know who they're going to be throwing. But it lines up, if they go with this, for Trevor McDonald today, Logan Webb on Saturday, and Robbie Ray on Sunday. You haven't faced Logan Webb yet this year. Robbie Ray's having a tough season from a walk and home run perspective, but he tore you apart in Truist Park last week. You had, or not last week, 2 weeks ago. Reminder, it was the resumption of the rain-shortened game. And so Atlanta had a lineup in to take advantage of a righty. And instead, lefty Robbie Ray came in and just tore him to shreds. So you understand that, right? You understand what happened there and kind of how that works and all of that. So the last 2 weeks for the Giants, what's changed from when you faced them to now is, one, Casey Schmidt is destroying people. He's hitting .395 with a .944 OPS. Young Hoo Lee is one. I've seen people talk about him potentially being a trade candidate. I've seen folks talk about if they try to unload the rest of his deal. They tried him in center. It didn't work out. He's now a corner outfielder. But I've seen folks ask, hey, do they try to move Young Hoo Lee? He signed for 6 years and $113 million before the 2024 season. So after this year, he's got one more year at $23.25 million. And then he can opt out of the final 2 years and $41 million if he wants to, that cover his age 29 and 30 season. If he opts into those, again, 20.5 for each of those last 2 seasons. So if you were to acquire a Young Hoo Lee, that would be a scenario where it's a corner outfield profile, not a center fielder at this point, but you would be on the hook for 3 years and $64.25 million if you were to get him. I'm not saying that it's a good idea or a bad idea. I honestly had not thought that much about it until I saw him on a list of potential trade targets this morning, prepping for the show. He has I want to be careful how I say this. He has a profile that's very similar to what from a lot of KBO imports, right? Not incredibly hard bat speed, but does a good job at making quality contact, right? Like the sweet spot, the launch angle sweet spot, the squared up rate are all like elite. Very low whiff rate, very low strikeout rate. He's unusual in that he also has a very low walk rate. Like his strikeout rate's 9.2%, 99th percentile. His walk rate's 4.4%, which is 7th percentile. Defensively, he's not been great. His arm strength is phenomenal, but his accuracy's been a little iffy. His range has been a little iffy. His sprint speed's roughly average. It's not a terrible idea. He's hitting .332 right now. The expected is still a .309. It's just not a very impactful bat from a power perspective, from an extra base hit perspective, from a run scoring perspective, right? He's hit 5 home runs. He's stolen 5 bags. But he's not blazing fast to steal bases. He's not walking a ton. He's almost like a version of Luis Ariz that can actually give you some value on defense. Again, he's not been great this year, but can give you some value on defense. I'm probably a no. Again, this is me out loud figuring this out as we go. I'm probably a no, but I'd have to legitimately think, okay, you're getting a 27-year-old with exceptional contact ability. He doesn't walk a lot, but he doesn't strike out. He's not going to steal a ton of bags for you, but could he be your left fielder and be like a diet Steven Kwan for you? That's kind of where I am with this. Could he be your diet Steven Kwan? I'd probably rather just go get Steven Kwan. If they decided to make Steven Kwan available, I would rather just go acquire him he would have less control, but he would be cheaper, right? He's making $7.725 million this year. He has one more year of arbitration next year before free agency in 2028. And he's having the rare down year for him. He got moved out of leadoff into the bottom half of the order. He's hitting 211, but like most seasons, he's putting up a batting average between 270 and 295 with a OPS in the 700s, right? He would get to 11, 14 home runs, whatever. He'd steal somewhere between 15 and 20 bags, and he'd play Gold Glove caliber defense in left field. I'd rather just have Stephen Kwan for 2 years than Young-Hoo Lee for somewhere between 1 and 3. But this is all just on the fly. This is not what I planned to do in this third segment. This is just where the show took us. This is the beauty of what we do here on Braves Today. So, yeah, looking at what they do, Luis Arraez, by the way, speaking of Luis Arraez, Ron Washington's made him actually into a positive defender at second base. Ron Washington can do literally no wrong at this point, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty confident Ron Washington can't do anything wrong. Now, Luis Arraez didn't play the last 2 days with injury. No word if he's going to go to the IL or not. But you've still got a group here of Young-Hoo Lee, Casey Schmidt hitting right now. Luis Arraez doing the Luis Arraez thing, right? He's actually had a better slug recently, although part of that's given up a home run by the Braves, giving up a home run to him. Rafi Devers is hitting 250 with 3 bombs in the last 2 weeks, which I guess is better than what he was doing earlier. His OPS is in the 8s. And then you've got guys that can hurt you. We saw how Willy Adames can hurt you. We saw Matt Chapman can hurt you, right? Bryce Eldridge can hurt you. So just like when they came to Truist Park, the team as a whole is struggling, but they have some guys who are hot and they have some guys who are not, but are talented enough to hurt you. So let's hope it doesn't come to that. Braves Today sponsor FanDuel has Atlanta favored in a close game. 7.5 runs is the over-under. They don't see a lot of runs being scored in this one. They see this one being pretty close, but Atlanta is favored despite it being a bullpen game for Atlanta, right? Ronaldo Lopez is shooting to go 3 innings, 60 pitches, and they're going to hand it over to the pen. So we'll see how Atlanta navigates this in the first day. It's only a 3-game series. You had yesterday off. You have Monday off as well. So I'm not super concerned about them burning the pen out on game 1. You only have to cover 2 more games. So we'll see how they do this. But that'll do it for a very long version of Braves Today for Friday, June 26th. We'll be back this afternoon with a scouting report to break down the late night matchup. More of those over the weekend. Going to try to have another draft-focused episode coming out tomorrow. I think it's a conversation to be had about floor versus ceiling at pick number 9 and fleshing out some of that a little bit. So I'm looking to do another draft episode for tomorrow morning. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time on Braves Today.